You say you want real conversation and real connection. You say that you're tired of small talk, tired of this surface level conversations that just don't go anywhere, tired of relationships that feel hollow. And you say that you're craving depth, the kind where intimacy is present and you're seen and known and loved to the very core of you. But here's the part that you don't readily admit, and that is that you're still hiding. You're hiding your truth. You're hiding your fears. You're hiding the parts of yourself that you're convinced are too messy, the parts that are too complicated, the parts that you feel are too much to be loved. And here's the truth that you need to hear, not as a criticism, by the way, but as an invitation. You can't demand depth while you're hiding your truth. You see, depth isn't something that you can force someone else to give you, right? Depth isn't something that you can demand from another person, especially while you're refusing to offer that same depth yourself, that same honesty, that same vulnerability. Depth is a space that you create by going first. And you can't wait for someone else to show you that it's safe. You can't wait for someone else to open up while you're sitting behind your armor. It doesn't work that way. You can't expect intimacy while you're living in hiding, right? See depth as an offering. See depth as an invitation. Depth as a form of surrender. Imagine it saying, I'm here, and I'm real, and I'm not performing, and I'm not pretending. I refuse to pretend, and I'm not filtering. Like, this is me, warts and all. But that's a terrifying prospect, isn't it? Because the truth is, hiding does feel safer, doesn't it? I mean, if you stay hidden, you reduce the risks then, right? And in so doing, you also minimize the chances as well of rejection. And you control what parts of you get exposed and which parts don't. And if they only see the parts that you allow, well, then maybe they won't hurt you like you've been hurt in the past. And if they only know the surface level of you, maybe that'll be good enough and they won't leave. If they only encounter the curated version of you, maybe then you can protect yourself from the shame of being truly seen and, as a result, not chosen. But here's what hiding costs you. It costs you real connection, because no one can love the parts of you that you won't reveal. They don't even have the option to. No one can connect with the version of you that's hiding behind this polished mask that you have. And as a result, you're not building intimacy by hiding. You're building isolation. You're building distance. And you're building this wall that keeps love out as much as it keeps risk out as well. And so you think you're protecting yourself, right? You think that you are keeping yourself safe, but what you're actually doing is you're starving yourself. You're starving yourself of the connection that you're deeply craving the most. Because depth can't find you if you won't be found. Intimacy can't meet you if you won't show up. And love can't reach you if you keep hiding behind your fear. You can't demand depth while you're hiding your truth. You can't demand depth while you're hiding your truth. So let me get real for a moment. What are the truths that you're hiding? Maybe it's the hurt that you've carried for years, the wound that you told yourself should be over by now, right? Perhaps it's the fear that you're not enough, or worse, that you're too much. Maybe it's the anger that you've never given yourself permission to feel. And maybe it's a sadness that you've buried under jokes and distractions over the long period of time. But maybe it's also the dreams that you've abandoned at some point along the way because they felt too vulnerable to pursue. So, what part of you have you decided is unacceptable or unworthy or unlovable? Because the parts that you hide away are the parts that block the connection. The parts that you are denying are the parts that keep you in isolation. And the parts that you're refusing to show, these are the parts that keep you stuck in relationships that never go beyond the surface. So, if you want depth, well, you have to go first. And that's a courageous move. You have to be willing to bring your full self into the room, not just the curated part or the approved part or the socially acceptable version of you. I'm talking about you have to show up in your real form, like your real self, without having to perform. You have to show up messy. You have to show up as a human, as a fellow human who is messy, because real connection doesn't happen between perfect people. Real connection, it happens between people who are present, who are in the moment, who are willing to share that risk, honest and whole. People who are willing to let themselves be seen. But here's the lie that keeps you hiding. And that is, you think if you show up real, that you'll be rejected, right? That's the fear that most of us carry. You think if people see the flaws that you have, or if they see your wounds, or if they see your fears, then they'll walk away. You think that if you drop the mask, then you'll be too much or not enough. But here's what's actually true. You see, when you show up real, you're giving other people permission to also likewise show up real as well. When you bring your truth into the room with you, you're creating this space where others can also bring their realness as well. And when you stop hiding, you stop living alone. And let me just say this, it's true, some people will most likely leave you. Yes, some people will misunderstand. They may not have the capacity to understand or make space for that. Some people will still prefer the version of you that stays small or stays safe and silent and polite. But let me tell you, the ones who are gonna stay, the ones who are gonna lean in, the ones who are gonna want what you have are the ones who are gonna meet you at your level of realness. Those are the ones that are worth staying for. Those are the ones whose worth is more accessible because you shared yours. Those are the ones who will love you, not for your performance, but for your presence. So, how do you stop hiding? Firstly, get honest with yourself. Firstly, get honest with yourself. What are you afraid will happen if you're showing up real? And what's the worst case scenario that you're guarding against? Like, what do you fear will happen at the worst? And what stories are you telling yourself about what it means to be seen? See, you can't drop a mask that you're not even aware that you're wearing in the first place. So start by noticing. Start by telling your truth about your fear, right? And then secondly, practice revealing over performing, okay? So when you're tempted to perform or act in a certain way because that's the role you played, to impress maybe, to manage, to control, just take a beat, pause in that moment. Breathe in. Give yourself a moment and then ask yourself, what would it look like to be real in this moment right now, in this opportunity? What would it sound like to speak from my heart instead of from my fear? Or what truth am I holding back in this present moment? And what am I fearing in that? And then gently and courageously give a little piece of real you. Now, you don't have to pour out your whole soul to everyone that you meet, and you don't have to be recklessly vulnerable, but you do have to practice showing up one moment at a time, one truth at a time, one layer at a time. And then thirdly, stay especially when it gets comfortable. You see, the first instinct is when you feel exposed, you want to retreat. You want to like just back away. You want to like forget that whole opportunity. You want to backpedal and to armor up again. But in that moment, when you're feeling all those familiar patterns, stay. Stay with that discomfort. Stay with that sense of awkwardness. Stay with the vulnerability. Because every time that you choose to stay, you're in that moment building up the muscle that depth requires. You're building up the resilience, if you will, that real intimacy demands. And you're teaching your nervous system how to stay in those moments, how to navigate through that awkward, uncomfortable zone. And you're able to say, I can be seen and survive. I can be honest and still be loved. I can be real and still belong. You see, depth is not about being perfectly open all the time. No, depth is about being willing to be real, consistently, courageously, and most importantly, imperfectly. It's about creating a life where masks are optional and honesty becomes the norm, where connection is not a performance, but it's presence, being in that moment together, where love is not a transaction, but instead it's a transformation. And you can't demand depth while you're hiding your truth. But here's what you can do. You can create depth by bringing your truth forward. And you can build intimacy by taking the courageous step and going first, by being the kind of person who shows up in that real, authentic form, by being the kind of person who stays open even when it's easier to shut down. See, by being the kind of person who trusts that what's real is what's lovable, is how you also create space for others to step into that mold. Because it is. But you have to experience that for yourself. The real you, the messy, unfinished, still growing part of you, is the one who's worth loving. The real you is the one who the right people are waiting to meet. And if you're tired of these surface level connections, if you're tired perhaps of feeling unseen and feeling unknown, if you're tired of longing for intimacy but just feeling stuck behind a wall that you built yourself, well, start here. Start by dropping that mask. And in one moment, in the context of your day, in the midst of your day, speak the truth. Be courageous and show up real. Not because it's safe, but because it's worth it. Not because it guarantees you that you won't get hurt, because it guarantees that you'll actually be living, like really authentically living instead of just surviving. So if this resonates with you, if you're ready to stop hiding and to start building like real connection, know this. You're not alone. And you don't have to do this alone, right? I am in the midst of creating a course and setting up a community subscription for men especially who are ready to stop living on the surface. Men who are ready to move from performing and wanting instead to experience being in the moment and presence, from hiding in their masks to honesty, from experiencing loneliness to moving towards connection. So if you're interested, let me know. Drop me a note, send me a comment. And if there's enough of you who are expressing interest, I'd love to make this a possibility. And if not, keep listening, because in this series that we're in the midst of is going to take us even deeper into what it means to live with radical integrity and intimacy, to build a life where depth isn't just something that you're longing and wishing for, but rather it's something that you are actually experiencing and living in. You see, depth starts where hiding ends. And so it's time to show up. It's time to show the real you. It's time to stop demanding from others what you're refusing to give yourself. It's time to be seen. Seen fully, seen fearfully, seen faithfully. And to discover that love was waiting for the real you this whole time.